It's Thursday, May 8th. In the headlines in local news, Minister of Constitutional Affairs says progress made in constitutional reform. In business news, BOJ offers investment opportunity. Regionally, Prime Minister Gaston Brown says Antigua and Barbuda-China relations are no threat to the U.S. And in sports, Jamaica secures third victory at Pan Am Hockey Tournament. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Brittany Clark. Significant steps have been taken on Jamaica's path to constitutional reform. That's according to Legal and Constitutional Affairs Minister Marlene Malahou-Fort. The issue took center stage during the minister's 2025-26 sectoral debate contribution.
Madam Speaker, during the April 1, 2024 to March 31st period, we made significant progress in advancing the constitutional reform agenda. You know, Madam Speaker, I want everyone to understand this. Transforming broad constitutional proposals into legally sound and effective legislation is an arduous task, requiring technical expertise and sustained effort.
She explains that the amended section replaces the monarchical words of enactment with a language that reflects Jamaica's legislative authority.
Madam Speaker, the enactment in July 2024 of the Constitution Amendment of Section 61 Act to provide for new words of enactment constituted the first legislative step taken in a proposed series of amendments intended to give effect to a constitution enacted by the Parliament of Jamaica and approved by the people of Jamaica. The new words of enactment are no longer monarchical. Today, they indicate the supreme authority of the Parliament of Jamaica in legislative matters.
Another major milestone was the tabling of the Constitutional Amendment Republic Act last December, a significant move in Jamaica's effort to transition from a constitutional monarchy to a republic.
Madam Speaker, the tabling on December 10, 2024, in this Honourable House, of the bill entitled An Act to Repeal the Jamaica Constitution Order in Council 1962, and to provide for the legal recognition and operation of the Constitution of Jamaica, notwithstanding the repeal of that order in Council, and to amend the Constitution to provide for a non-monarchical head of state, thereby establishing Jamaica as a republic, and to make other amendments in respect of certain other provisions of the Constitution, marked the farthest step taken to achieve the national goals of Jamaicanizing our independence constitution and transitioning Jamaica from a constitutional monarchy to a republic.
In a symbolic gesture, the ministry also printed a consolidated version of the Constitution wrapped in the national colors. Minister Malahou-Fort credits the dedicated reform teams and called for continued collaboration.
The ministry prepared and printed a consolidated version of the Jamaica Constitution, and, Madam Speaker, we clothe it in the Jamaican colors as a symbolic gesture of where we are going.
And while the road ahead remains complex, the government says it's committed to ensuring that the reform process is carried out with care and inclusivity. Jamaica's judiciary made history on May 7, 2025, with the inaugural Judiciary Day celebration held across all courts island-wide. Under the theme, Preserving Justice, Honoring History, Embracing the Future, This historic day honored those who serve as the custodians of justice, ensuring laws are upheld, rights are protected, and the foundation of fairness is maintained for generations to come. Marlon Samuels reports.
May 7, 2025 marked a historic milestone for Jamaica's legal system. The first of its kind event shined a spotlight on the vital work of judges and court staff, reaffirming the nation's commitment to justice. The colorful parade of judges and court staff marked a historic day in Jamaica for justice. The inaugural Judiciary Day is a bold statement of Jamaica's dedication to the rule of law and ensuring access to justice for all.
Our march from parade down to the Supreme Court is a symbol of our courageous commitment to good governance through the efficient, effective, and impartial administration of justice. Many of us were not comfortable going up and down King Street. We thought about our security, but we put that aside to show Jamaica that blood runs through the vein of the justice system, that we have eyes and ears like the people of Jamaica. And as Marcus Garvey would say, we serve them as judges who look just like them.
This occasion is more than ceremonial. It's a call to reflect, to educate, and to renew our collective resolve to support the strengthening of our legal systems. It is through such initiative as this that public trust is nurtured, transparency is advanced, and a culture of respect of law and order is deepened. I especially commend the judiciary for involving the communities and stakeholders in this observance. By opening doors to dialogue and public engagement, we help to demystify the courts and build a bridge of understanding between citizens and the institutions that serve them.
The event not only showcased appreciation for the dedicated men and women behind Jamaica's justice system, it also highlighted efforts to improve access to justice, including a significant reduction in case backlogs.
90% of total hearings in the Supreme Court are now conducted electronically. Why shouldn't we celebrate a parish court system that has been backlog-free for the past 3 years, establishing a new standard of operational excellence which exceeds international standards? The international benchmark is under 5%. We are under 3% and have been so for the last 3 years. Why shouldn't we applaud a Court of Appeal that continues its exceptional performance, the clearance rate again exceeding 100%, steadily reducing its backlog, and therefore becoming, for the third consecutive year, doing this. And so our statisticians tell us that a trend is confirmed when it is repeated 3 consecutive years. So we are now there. That is what the Court of Appeal has been doing. So let us celebrate that.
In an effort to demystify the judicial process, several courthouses held open houses, allowing citizens to learn more about how the courts function. The celebration sets a powerful precedent, emphasizing the essential role of the judiciary in building a fair and just Jamaica. It's a clear declaration that justice remains at the heart of our nation's future. For the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
The government says it's moving swiftly to tackle the misuse of motor vehicle demonstration plates, commonly known as blue plates, which are increasingly being linked to criminal activity. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang made the announcement during Wednesday's post-cabinet press briefing. The issue, he says, is already under review by the National Security Council.
National Security Council examined the problem. It has wide implications, and it is one that is used to not only commit crimes, but in fact a source of money laundering in the country.
Demo plates are typically used by car dealers to move vehicles from the port or to facilitate test drives. But recent incidents, including 2 serious crashes, have cast a spotlight on their misuse. Dr. Chang says multiple agencies, including the police, MOCA, and the Ministries of Finance and Transport, are working together to resolve the matter.
In collaboration with the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Transport, and the investigative skill about the police and MOCA, we are looking at a way to resolve the matter, and it will be resolved pretty soon.
In a significant move, Police Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake has declared it unlawful for police to demand a citizen's cell phone password during a random stop. This declaration follows reports of police confiscating mobile phones and pressuring citizens for their passwords during operations. At Wednesday's post-cabinet press briefing, Police Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake clarified that it is illegal for officers to ask for individuals' phone passwords without a court order and stresses the importance of following due process in such cases.
Let me first say there's a process. There's a process, and the process certainly is not coercing someone on that scene to give up their password. There's a process, and it is a court order has to be made. And so it is not right. It's not legal. Let me just say that clear. And we have since communicated to our members when that came to our attention that has been a practice.
The police commissioner further addressed another controversial issue, ticketing for daytime running lights.
We have also communicated regarding the ticketing of running lights. Okay, if you look at the strict literature of the law itself, it allows certain things to happen, except the fact that these are lights that came with the vehicle and not necessarily placed on the vehicle. And so there's a little gray area there. And so what we have done, we have sent out communication to our members to desist from doing that. Desist from doing that is something that we need to look at in the legislation itself. But for the time being, we have instructed our members not to continue that practice. It's unfair to the motorists.
The announcement comes as part of the ongoing effort to clarify police practices and ensure fair treatment of citizens. A promise to cut to the general consumption tax on electricity bills is now a reality. As of May 1, the GCT applied to residential electricity charges has been reduced from 15% to 7%. The change affects both the postpaid and prepaid customers of the Jamaica Public Service. Danita Rodney has the details.
Another promise made by the government and another promise kept by the government. And that is in relation to the reduced GCT rates on energy. And so the changes to the GCT on energy charges, which were recently announced by the government of Jamaica, are now in effect. They came into effect on the 1st of May. So after this cycle of your electricity bill, you will see a difference on it.
Speaking at Wednesday's post-cabinet press briefing, Information Minister Senator Dr. Dina Morris-Dixon confirmed the change and said customers can expect to see the impact soon.
So a reduced GCT rate of 7% will now be applied to the energy charges of both postpaid and prepaid residential customers of JPS. This new rate replaces the 15% GCT that was previously applied to usage over 150 kilowatt hours. The new 7% GCT rate applies to residential customers' energy usage, and as I said, as at May 1, 2025. So prepaid customers will also see a new tax line on their receipt or vouchers when they top up starting May 1.
The minister also explained that additional relief is coming for low-usage households.
The government also announced a special rebate and subsidy for low-energy users. So postpaid residential customers who use 250 kilowatt hours or less per month will receive a 3% government tax subsidy and a 7% government tax rebate. These benefits will be applied automatically to customers who qualify and will appear as a separate line item on their JPS bill. So you will see that rebate on your bill.
The government assures that this move is part of wider efforts to ease the burden of high utility costs on households across the country.
Time now for the Business Report with Denise Williams.
Welcome to today's Business Report. I'm Denise Williams, here to bring you the stories shaping the financial world and guiding your journey to smarter business decisions. Let's dive into the top headlines. Investors have the opportunity to participate in a fixed rate certificate of deposit offered by the Bank of Jamaica. The certificate of deposit will pay investors 6.25% per year. The total offer will be 31 billion Jamaican dollars. The instrument is being issued by the Bank of Jamaica to prevent a further slide in the value of the dollar, as well as to contain the rate of inflation. Private investors must bid to compete for $29.45 billion of this amount, while the remaining $1.55 billion will be allocated to public sector institutions. The interest paid on the instrument will be taxed at a rate of 25%. The micro stock market is to be launched by April 2026. Micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises will be able to raise $10 to $50 million when the micro stock exchange is open for business. Dr. Marlene Street Forrest, Managing Director of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, says a steering committee is being put in place to direct the structure and establishment of the micro market. For the trading period ending May 7, 2025, these were the most actively traded stocks. Toll road operator Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with 2,081,870 units traded, representing 19.99% of market sales volume. Caribbean financial conglomerate JMMB Group Limited, 9.5% stock with 979,748 units traded, representing 9.41% of market sales volume. Online education platform EduFocal Limited with 957,986 units traded, representing 9.2% of market sales volume. We now shift our focus to the Forex market rates set by the Bank of Jamaica. On May 7, 2025, the Bank of Jamaica reported US $53.9 million purchased and US $47.56 million sold by Forex traders. Forex traders earned $1.82 per dollar, selling the US at $159.88 and buying the US at $158.06. The Canadian dollar netted Forex traders $7.10 per transaction, with selling at $117.10 and buying at $110. The British pound yielded Forex traders $3.08 in profit, with selling at $212.23 and buying at $209.15. For our credit report tip of the day, when you're building a business from the ground up, every dollar counts and every decision matters. For small traders and retailers who are bootstrapping their way forward, access to funding can feel out of reach. But what many don't realize is that improving your personal credit score can be the key to unlocking small but powerful financial tools. A credit card with a manageable limit, a microloan, or even a supplier terms that give you room to breathe. You don't need a big investor to get started. You need a good strategy, and your credit score can be a part of it. And that wraps up today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, reminding you that every financial decision is a step toward your future. Until next time, stay focused, stay informed, and keep striving for success. See you soon.
In regional news, Prime Minister Gaston Brown has reaffirmed China's role as a key development partner for Antigua and Barbuda, while assuring that the relationship poses no threat to the United States. He also signaled his country's willingness to help foster dialogue between the U.S. and China. The comments were made during a meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington, D.C., according to Antigua and Barbuda's ambassador to the United States, Sir Ronald Sanders. Garfield Burford reports.
The United States and China are the world's two largest economies, accounting for over 45% of global economic output. However, they have been at loggerheads, especially over trade. Washington has imposed tariffs of 145% on most Chinese imports, while Beijing has reacted with tariffs of 125% on most U.S. goods. So Ronald Sanders summarized Prime Minister Brown's comments on the issue of U.S.-China relations during the meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Tuesday.
In the ideal world, we would like to see the United States and China begin to talk with one another in a way that would resolve their own differences. And to the extent that Antigua and Barbuda, small though we are, might be able to contribute to brokering that arrangement, we would be happy to.
It has emerged over the past 24 hours that U.S. and Chinese officials are set to start talks this week to try to de-escalate their trade war. Chinese Vice Premier Haley Feng will attend the talks in Switzerland from May 9 to 12, while U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer will represent Washington at that meeting. And in relation to the U.S.'s 10% baseline tariffs charged on goods from Antigua, Barbuda, and most of the Caribbean countries?
The question was raised not by Antigua, because as you know, we export very little. So our exports are tariffs on them are de minimis. It really makes no difference to our income. It makes no difference to jobs in our country. Very little difference. Other countries that export more to the United States raise that question, but they raise it in the context of what is happening with the Caribbean Basin Initiative and the Caribbean Basin Economic Recovery Act. They express their concerns about whether that tariff differential would continue. Rubio pointed out that all of these tariffs are under review.
Meanwhile, Sir Ronald says Prime Minister Brown made it clear in the meeting with Secretary Rubio that China is a key development partner of Antigua Barbuda. He also sought to allay any concerns from Washington, insisting there is no threat to the U.S.'s security from those ties.
He said there is no military Chinese installation in Antigua and Barbuda, and there never will be. Making it clear that there will be no threat to the United States security from any country putting up any installation in Antigua and Barbuda that could be viewed as such a threat. But he did make the point that China is a friend and is helpful.
Yesterday marked National Interpreter Appreciation Day, a moment dedicated to honoring interpreters of all languages who help bridge communication gaps. Across the country, many took time to recognize the critical role these professionals play. In Trinidad and Tobago at CNC3, they also paused to highlight the vital work of their own sign language interpreters who serve the deaf and hard of hearing community. Liana Maharaj has the story.
Hi, my name is Ryan. That's my name sign, Ryan. It's spelled R-A-E-A-N-N-E. Last name H-U-T-T-O-N. And I'm a sign language interpreter.
We see them in the corner of our screens, but some of us probably aren't aware of how much work goes into being a sign language interpreter.
A winning start for Trinidad and Tobago as the CWI...
Playing a critical part in bridging the gap in government offices, hospitals, businesses, newsrooms, and sometimes even at concerts.
Don't act like you forgot.
Interpreters never have it easy.
Everywhere you go, there's someone who's deaf there, and then there's somebody who cannot communicate with them, because at the end of the day, deaf people are people just like us. Wherever they go, they're going to need to communicate, and they're going to bounce off people who cannot speak sign language. So you might get a message on your phone in the middle of the night. I'm at this hospital. Can you come and interpret for me? Or I have a doctor's appointment next week. Can you come and interpret for me?
Rayan is what you'd call a coder, a child of deaf adults.
I learned to sign before I learned to speak. And then, speaking came when I started to interact with students in school.
Her face looks familiar because she's not only an interpreter here on CNC3 News, but also for other news stations, Parliament, and even at live events. Wherever she's needed, she's there. And while sign language is her first language, she has her challenges too.
Well, signing for the news is a different kettle of fish because news is so much information bundled within 1 hour with words that do not exist in sign language. So you have to know the meaning of these words. In the news, I have to grasp it. I have to get it on time. And sometimes I have to anticipate what is going to be said so that I don't get cut off before a break or something.
She acknowledges that there are some interpreters who are not exactly perfect. And to that she says, honesty is the best policy.
Let's just say I can't hear. I'm not going to pretend I'm signing anything. I will actually say, I can't hear. I say it.
This, she says, is what makes interpreters stand out in a unique way.
What interpreters do is so invaluable. It bridges worlds. And there's a reason why it's called an interpreter versus a translator. It requires a lot more effort, work, and understanding to convey that message to your audience.
Now, while you may be annoyed or even amused by that little box in the corner, Rayan asks that you be patient with them.
With a hearing person, you can turn your back, wash the wares, and still be in the know of what is happening with the news. A deaf person, they're gonna have to look at that box and concentrate on that box for the entire hour.
Their hands may be silent, but their work speaks volumes. Today, we celebrate interpreters who help make the news and events accessible to the deaf and hard of hearing community. Because inclusion isn't extra, it's essential. Liana Maharaj, CNC3 News. CNC3 News.
In sports, we lead off with hockey. Jamaica's men's hockey team secured another victory at the 2025 CAC Games qualifier in Mexico on Wednesday, defeating Bermuda 2-0 at Deportivo Sur. Philip Dawson, known for his goal-scoring abilities, found the back of the net once again, joined by Rashad McCarthy, who also scored for Jamaica. This win marks Jamaica's third victory from 4 matches, propelling them to second place in the 6-team standings. The top 2 teams will qualify for the CAC Games, where they'll have a chance to advance to the Pan Am Games. Jamaica's next challenge comes on Friday when they face host nation Mexico, who defeated them in their second game of the tournament. We pivot to cricket as Indian captain Rohit Sharma has announced his retirement from Test cricket, but he will continue to play one-day internationals. This comes after reports in the Indian media on Wednesday that the 38-year-old would be removed as captain for the Test series in England this summer. Nazira Mohammed has the details.
Sharma made the announcement on Instagram, thanking fans and calling it an honor to wear the whites. His retirement comes amid reports he was set to be replaced as Test captain ahead of India's tour of England. Since succeeding Virat Kohli as Test skipper in 2022, Rohit led India in 24 matches, winning 12. His leadership took India to the World Test Championship final in 2023, though they finished runners-up to Australia. However, his recent Test record was less favourable. India suffered an historic 3-0 home series defeat to New Zealand, their first in over a decade, and a 3-1 loss in Australia. Rohit was eventually left out of the final Test in Sydney due to a dip in form. Over his 67 Test career, Rohit scored 4,301 runs at an average of 40.57, including 12 centuries. His highest score, 212 against South Africa in 2019. India's next Test assignment is a 5-match series against England starting June 20th in Leeds, marking the beginning of a new World Test Championship cycle. Fast bowler Jasprit Bumrah, who has previously stepped in as stand-in captain, could be among the contenders to lead upon Rohit's retirement.
That's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.